Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa kafa, salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa. Amma ba'd. Fa'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا سُبْحَانَ رَبِّكَ رَبِّ الْعِزَّةِ عَمَّا يَصِفُونَ وَسَلَامٌ عَلَى الْمُرْسَلِينَ وَالْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد بارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد بارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد بارك وسلم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. It was mentioned about today's Sahabi Abdurrahman ibn Auf. That will be next month, inshallah. What was assigned was Hazrat ʿUthmān ibn ʿAffān radiyallahu anhu. Hazrat ʿUthmān ibn ʿAffān, he needs no introduction. And when you study his life, you realize that there's so many lessons that can be learned, as he was also the third Khalifa of the Khulafa Rashidun. And it really needs to be studied, his life needs to be studied over the course of some time, along with the other Khulafa. So the most appropriate place to discuss his life would be maybe like a weekend class or a series of classes, because there's a tremendous amount of knowledge that we can gain from his life, and we need to know about it, because during his time there witnessed a great trial and tribulation in the Ummah, and how the Sahaba dealt with it afterwards, it's also very important to know. So inshallah we'll try to cover a little bit glimpses of his life, inshallah. Starting with his lineage. Who ʿUthmān ibn ʿAffān ibn Abdul As ibn Umayyah ibn Abd al-Shams ibn Abd Manaf. So he was from the Quraysh tribe, and from his father's side, he meets up with the Prophet ﷺ in Abd Manaf. So this was like the fourth grandfather of Rasulullah ﷺ and the fifth grandfather of Hazrat ʿUthmān. From Abd Manaf, you have a split. One son is Abd al-Shams, one is the Hashim. It was Hashim. And from there we know Banu Hashim, the clan of the Prophet ﷺ. Abd al-Shams had a son named Umayyah, and he was an exemplary personality of the Quraysh, such that his children were known as Banu Umayyah. Banu Umayyah. So Banu Umayyah, from Umayyah ibn Abd al-Shams ibn Abd Manaf, and Banu Hashim, from Hashim ibn Abd Manaf. So that's where it meets. And later on in history we'll see that the Umayyad dynasty, later on, that assumed the rule of the Khilafah, was coming from this clan. So very important, very powerful, noble clan of Quraysh. This is Hazrat Uthman's father's side. From his mother's side, his mother's name was Arwa, and her mother, or his grandmother, was Al-Bayda ibn Abd al-Muttalib. Abd al-Muttalib, we know, the grandfather of the Prophet ﷺ. So this is Al-Bayda or Hakim. So this was the paternal aunt. So on one side, on the mother, the grandmother, his maternal grandmother, was the paternal aunt of Rasulullah ﷺ. So he was joined in lineage to the Prophet ﷺ in two ways. And his clan, the Umayyah, Banu Umayyah, was very noble. They even had the national flag of the Quraysh, Iqab, and would remain in control of the family. It would remain in control of this family, the national flag. Different important functions of the Quraysh were assigned to different clans, and that was a source of their honor. So the Banu Umayyah, they had the national flag of the Quraysh. As far as Uthman radiyallahu anhu, he was highly educated. He was highly educated, and one of the only few people of Makkah at that time to know how to read and write. So a very educated person. And when he reached adulthood, he started to trade. And many of his clansmen were traders. And he adopted trade in cloth. And he would go out in the different rihla to Sham, to Yemen, and Allah Ta'ala granted him enormous wealth and success in this profession. And we see from before Islam that the qualities of the Sahaba, they were already manifest. That you can already see them. Same thing for any person that converts. Even now, they have many good qualities. It's not like they only achieve qualities through Islam. Islam enhances those qualities and directs those qualities. But every human being has tremendous amount of potential. So Uthmān radiallahu anhu, he was a rich person from before, but he used his money in a benevolent manner and always helped the poor and the needy. He was very kind-hearted and gentle-hearted. He never hesitated to spend any money of wealth to assist a man in difficulty. And due to these qualities, that he was beloved by the Quraysh. The people of Makkah had the highest regard for him. He was also very handsome. He was neither too short or tall, fair-skinned, a thin body, large beard, large limbs, and a prominent nose. So these internal qualities that we had, as well as external features, made him beloved, such that the women, they would sing to their children, and they would say, أُحِبُّكَ وَالرَّحْمَانِ حُبَّ قُرَيْشٍ ዑثْمَانَ. That they would just tell their children, by Rahman, being by Allah, by Rahman, an oath, I love you like the Quraysh love Uthman. I love you like the Quraysh have love for Uthman. So that means that they loved him. Right, that this is the mother is telling their kids, I love you, because it was well known in the community. And everybody loved Uthman. This is before Islam. But things change, right, after Islam. Subhanallah. He was one of the earliest Muslims. It's mentioned in some traditions he was the 4th Muslim. And he's on the silsila of Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, that, as we know, and we've talked about here, how he took that fikr immediately after accepting Islam, and he invited his close associates. And Hazrat Uthman had a good relationship with Hazrat Abu Bakr, and it was through this invitation that he accepted. Now it's important to note, because remember that Hazrat Uthman was from the Bani Umayyah. And the Bani Umayyah at that time were actually in power in Makkah. So for him to accept the Prophet ﷺ from a different clan, that was a tremendous sacrifice. That means he unhesitantly acknowledged the supremacy of Banu Hashim by accepting a man of Banu Hashim as the Prophet. And we see later on the animosity that the Quraysh had, and many of the leaders, it was from the Banu Umayyah. And part of the reason was the Prophet was not from their clan. So this was very, they had other reasons, but one of the main reasons for their stubbornness was, he's not from one of us. But you see, he is, right? It's Banu Umayyah, Banu Hashim go up to Abdul Manaf of the Quraysh. But even then, you start to make cliques, and you should be united, and you can find a common bond to unite, but when you want to disunite, you can always find something, right? He's different in this way. He's different. We have the same great-grandfather. No, but you're like this. So this is what happened. It's like Abu Sufyan, we see that he accepted later Islam much later, right? Because it was this inherent clan clique that they were having. So Hazrat Uthman radiallahu anhu, he looked over that, right? So sometimes we may find these things in our life where our family may not be for something good, and you have to overcome these challenges, and that's what makes a great man, able to overcome these sometimes difficult circumstances. So Uthman had this clarity of mind to see the message and realize that this is the true Prophet of Allah. And we know that he had been greatly loved by the Quraysh. But the moment that he converts, then they became his sworn enemies. And even his clansmen, even his only family, rebuked him and chastised him harshly. Now he was a very important figure. He was a very wealthy person. But even then, he had his challenges. And the challenges were mostly internal from his own clan members, because no other clan member would dare from another tribe to do anything with his clan being in power. But they are the ones that would oppress him. The Prophet ﷺ really appreciated that struggle of Uthman radiallahu anhu, and he eventually gave his daughter, Ruqayya. The daughter of the Prophet ﷺ was married to Uthman radiallahu anhu. So this situation in Makkah started to get intolerable for him and his wife, and the other Muslims, as we know. So the Prophet ﷺ allowed Uthman radiallahu anhu to migrate. Imagine a person have to migrate, a very wealthy and noble person of the tribe, but is forced to migrate because of the conditions of his hometown. So he, along with other Sahaba, they migrated to Abyssinia. And regarding this, the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned that Uthman is the first man of my ummah to migrate with his family for Allah's sake. Subhanallah. So he went as a couple. So they did it as a family. And they migrated. Why? For the sake of Allah. Left behind their homeland. So he had to migrate. And over there, he was blessed to have Ruqayya radiallahu anha gave birth to his son Abdullah. Abdullah. So Uthman radiallahu anhu had a kunya Abu Amr before marriage, before in the time of Jahiliyyah. But after this, after the birth of his son Abdullah, then he was also known as Abu Abdullah. Abu Abdullah. And as we know about the migrants of Abyssinia, there was a false rumor that was circulating amongst them later, after they had went and stayed for some time, that the Quraysh of Makkah had returned, had accepted Islam, so they wanted to return. So Hazrat Uthman also came back, but this was a misinformed, so it was a false rumor, and he had to once again struggle with the difficulties of the Quraysh. Eventually, Hazrat Uthman was able to migrate to Medina, and so he is a person that migrated twice for the sake of Allah. Once to Abyssinia and once to Medina. So it shows you that sometimes you have to take a break from your land for whatever reason. It's nobody really wants to leave the place of their birth, but it's challenging. And sometimes for the sake of Allah, if it's for the right reasons, then you'll get tremendous reward. And many of us, perhaps here, have had that situation with themselves or their family members. So as we know, if we go to the period in Medina, the first major battle of Islam was at Badr. But it's important to note that Hazrat Uthman radiallahu anhu, he actually did not participate in this battle. And that's, why didn't he participate in this battle? At that time, his beloved wife, the beloved daughter of the Prophet ﷺ, Ruqayya, fell ill. So the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned that he should stay and take care of her. Right? So it's such an important battle, and the Sahaba were eager. But family obligations sometimes, takes precedent. And this was sanctioned by the Prophet ﷺ. Sometimes we say, we need to do something for the sake of deen and, leave my family in whatever condition they're in. So we see the example. This was sanctioned by the Prophet ﷺ, and Sahabi Jalil, a great Sahabi, eminent Sahabi, did not participate in that battle. Did not participate because she was gravely ill. So as the Muslims, they were celebrating their victory at Badr, the Prophet ﷺ, he sent Zayd ibn Haritha radiallahu anhu to bring the good news to the people of Medina. Unfortunately, that good news was also met with the sad news of the passing of Ruqayya radiallahu anha. So life has ups and downs. So the Prophet ﷺ is victorious and happy in such a major victory for Islam, only to come home and see that his beloved daughter has passed away. Subhanallah. And he had to bury his daughter. So this is how Allah Ta'ala tests us, in good times and bad times. I was just in a masjid, and the Imam Sahib was saying, he came from one masjid, literally 20 minutes before, doing a nikah, and talking about the blessings of marriage, and then he came to the masjid that we were at to do the janazah. And so now he has to change his mindset completely. Right? This is the nature of life, that in one day you may have difficult times, good and bad, but that's, we react in the way that Allah Ta'ala has taught us, as shown by the Prophet ﷺ. So Uthman radiallahu anhu, he was disheartened that he did not participate in this battle. So the Prophet ﷺ actually gave him a share of the reward for Badr, of the booty of Badr. And he also gave him the glad tidings that he would receive a share. So he was there in spirit, and he was not there on his own accord, rather because of the commandment to stay with his family. Now the Prophet ﷺ, he was also deeply saddened that now he lost this ability to be the son-in-law of the Prophet ﷺ, which is a great honor, which is a tremendous honor. But because of Prophet's affection for Uthman, he subsequently gave his other daughter, Kulthum, his next youngest daughter, Kulthum, to marriage to Uthman radiallahu anhu. Thus, we have two daughters of the Prophet ﷺ married to Hazrat Uthman in sequential order. So it's been narrated, mentioned in narration that Allah Ta'ala never united two daughters of a Nabi from the time He created Adam alayhi salam till the hour for anyone except Uthman ibn Affan. So this is his unique feature, amongst all the creation, that he was married to two daughters of a Nabi. Therefore, he became famous with the title of Zun Nurain, as we may know. Zu, possessor of Nurain, two lights. The two lights. The two daughters of the Prophet ﷺ, the man with two lights. And that was his title. Besides these battles, Hazrat Uthman participated in almost all other battles. There's a few battles where the Prophet ﷺ went out himself, and then he appointed Uthman as the representative while he was gone. So he did stay in Medina, and he had that honor of being like the Amir of the town while the Prophet ﷺ was out of town in battle. But besides that, he participated. But it's important to know that Uthman radiallahu anhu, although he participated, he was not known for his valor in battle. So it shows you that not everybody has expertise or that passion in every field. He did participate, and he was, like all the other Sahaba, eager to sacrifice his life for the sake of Islam. But he was a gentle and kind-hearted man by his nature. So he participated because for the sake of Allah. That's it. For the sake of Allah, he participated. And he was not known for his battle. But what was known for? His philanthropy. Right? He was known to excel in giving and financial assistance. So that's important because many of us have different qualities. Sometimes we have to do certain things, and we will do them for the sake of Allah. But we have to find what's in ourselves. What is in our capacity? Are we one that Allah Ta'ala has blessed us with financial means? Then we use that to the best of our ability. If we've been given physical strength, we use that strength for Islam. If we've been given mental capacity, intellect, we use that. We have to find what's best for us. At times, you will be asked to do something that you're not good at. That's also a test. Right? You may not be the most expert in this field, but the situation arises that you're needed. So you will stand up. But just wait till you get to your expertise. Then you will give. Right? So this is what we need. We need different elements of our ummah to give back generally and then specifically. Right? So when we talk about an organization and we want volunteers, we want help, it's not just about maybe the more mundane aspects of the masjid or the organization. And that is there, and we need that, undoubtedly. And no organization can run without these activities. And that will be the general, i'lan, like announcement that we need help in this. But you yourself should think, organizations, they are multifaceted. They have so many elements. They have so many things that are needed, just like any other organization. And can I give my skill set? You need to think about it. And we need all different elements, all different aspects. So if you really want to contribute in a unique way, and you have a unique skill, or you have a way to give back to the community, figure that out. Figure that out. So we'll talk about some of his services that he has given. Make sure time is there. His financial assistance was very timely, and it was quite valuable. This is the one thing about Hazrat Uthman. He was asked to give, and he gave. And he gave again, and he gave again. And he gave in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and he gave beyond that time. So we'll see that. And that was his dominant characteristic. Before I mention the specific ones about his financial, I just want to highlight that that doesn't mean he only gave financially. Like I said before, if he was needed in other capacity, he did that readily. For example, in Hudaybiyah, in 6 Hijri, when the Rasulullah ﷺ left with his companions to visit the Kaaba, he had a dream to visit and do Umrah. Then upon reaching Hudaybiyah, they came to know the mushrikeen of the Quraysh were not allowing them to enter. And they said, return. So then the Prophet ﷺ sent ʿUthmān anhu to Makkah as the only representative to negotiate, as an emissary, as an ambassador. Only ʿUthmān anhu. So he has this unique opportunity to negotiate with the Quraysh. So what did they do? So he went to Makkah trying to show that we've only come here to perform Umrah. Look, we have sacrificial animals. We're not here to fight. Just let us perform Umrah. So they say, we'll let you do Umrah. We will let you do Tawaf. He says, how can I ever do Tawaf without the Prophet doing Tawaf? He rejected that, right? So when you're an ambassador, sometimes this is how they will try to do it. Like, forget them, we'll help you. And sometimes people are like, okay, then he switched sides. He was very loyal. This was his clansman. No, I'm not going to do Umrah. I'm not doing Tawaf without the Prophet. I'm here to negotiate this. So these negotiations actually stretched for a long time. And he was forced to stay in Makkah. Then this false rumor was spread that Hazrat Uthman was killed by the Makkans. At this, the Prophet ﷺ, he sat under a tree and took a pledge from the companions to fight the kuffar in revenge for his murder, if this was the case. And this pledge was made, and when the pledge was being made, then the Prophet ﷺ also put another hand on top of his hand and said, this hand represents Uthman. And this was known as the Baytul Ridwan, which is mentioned in the Quran. So such honor that if something happened to the emissary of the Prophet ﷺ, then they were willing to fight, even in that condition. So a pledge was taken because they came to do Umrah. Right? So this was a great honor that Uthman radiallahu anhu had by being the ambassador at that critical juncture. And eventually they negotiated Treaty of Hudaybiyah, as we know, and that was a great success for the Muslims. So this was an example of his other skills that he had. But as far as his financial assistance in a timely manner, there are several. We'll go over a few. So at one time in Medina, as the Muslims' population grew, they couldn't find suitable drinking water. Water to drink. The water and the wells were not that suitable for drinking. But there was one well, Bi'r Ruma. Bi'r Ruma, it was, the owner did not want to share this well with the Muslims. So, Uthman radiallahu anhu, he paid 20,000 dirhams for this well. And then he donated it for the Muslims for their use. This was the first ever waqf or trust made in the history of Islam. So he has that honor of buying something of use and donating it for the cause of the Muslims. And in this case, it was well water. It was well water. So it takes the precedent in this. And it's a tremendous deed to have water for the community. So he made sure that the water for the community was there and he didn't make any profit from it. Right? That was a very good business opportunity. But no, for the sake of Allah, he donated after paying a huge amount of sum. When the Prophet ﷺ visited the well and drank from it, he prayed to Allah to reward Uthman with the bliss of paradise. Right? So he got that dua, subhanAllah. Another time in Medina, because the population was growing, the Muslims were coming, the Prophet's masjid became inadequate. So it was too small for the community. What did Uthman do? He responded by purchasing land so that it could be extended. SubhanAllah. So he has a hand in the expansion of Masjid al-Nabawi. Right? These opportunities, they came with sacrifice. It's not like money is just lying down. It would take a great hit. This is not small amount. But he looked at the opportunity. And then later on, during the expedition of Tabuk, towards the end of the mission of the Prophet in 9th Hijri. And this was called also the expedition of difficulty. And the army was called the army of difficulty, Jaysh al-Usra. And this word Usra is mentioned in the Quran. It was very difficult because it was a time of extreme heat. There was famine in the area. The distance was extensive. And the enemy was massive because this was against the Roman Empire. At that time, Rasulullah ﷺ encouraged and invited all the companions to give for the cause of Allah. And we know this, right? Anybody that's been any fundraising, this is routinely cited. But think about it now, outside of the context of that fundraising dinner perhaps. He came, so the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever equips this army of Usra, this distress, army of distress, is guaranteed Jannah. So he took that. Not only him, all the Sahaba, they did. And we know the story, Hazrat Abu Bakr came and Hazrat Umar came, and they gave all of their wealth or half of their wealth. But Hazrat Uthmān, he came and he gave enough to support 1/3 of the army. 1/3 by himself, which was about 10,000 people that he supported, by giving 900 to 1,000 camels and 100 horses with the provisions all on them, as well as 1,000 gold coins. So that was a massive amount that he gave to equip 1/3 of the army. Subhanallah. So if you want to follow in the footsteps, that's like a mega donor, like a mega donor. If you have the opportunity, you have the precedent. Sahaba in every aspect, you cannot beat them. You can try to emulate them, right? So this is great opportunities for any organization that you're part of. How can I be that? Just like Hazrat Uthmān, right? And it counts. You make that intention. I want to be like Hazrat Uthmān. I want to be Hazrat Uthmān, right? I want to follow the injunction of the Prophet and show that, that my money is there. It's available as needed, if that's what you have. And that's the amount, regarding the amount. Obviously, Sahaba, they gave. Hazrat Abu Bakr, he gave everything. So it's not about the amount necessarily, but highlighting that the fact that you have, then this was tremendously beneficial for the Muslims. Besides that, Uthmān has other qualities as well. Remember, he was very educated, highly educated, and he was one of the scribes of the Prophet ﷺ. So he wrote down the wahi. He was one of the scribes. And he would write other documents. The Prophet would send letters and documents for the administration, and he would be writing. Right? So he used that education that he had for the sake of Allah. In all aspects he was using. And this continued after the Prophet's death, because he supported the Ummah by supporting Hazrat Abu Bakr and Hazrat Umar, and was a member of the Shura Council. So he occupied a prominent position in the affairs of the Islamic State from the earliest days. So this continued. It didn't just stop after the passing of the Prophet. He was giving, and he was very influential. Example of his giving, so there was one incident mentioned about Hazrat Abu Bakr's time in his Khilafah. There was a drought with little produced from the earth that year. At that time, one of Hazrat Uthman's caravans was coming from Sham, and it had 100 camels full of food. Okay? So now the merchants, they gathered by Uthman's door, and then he came out, and he said, "What do you want?" So what do you want? Now you can imagine the scene, like no food there, and now just all this caravan came. So they explained, drought has gripped the people, no rain has fallen from the sky, and the earth has not produced any plants. At the same time, people are suffering greatly. We have received information that you have some food. So sell it to us so that we may enrich the needy Muslims. So sell it to us. We have money, we don't have food, we will buy it. Uthmān radiallahu anh said, by all means, enter with love and honor and buy. The traders thus entered. The food was packed in Uthmān radiallahu anhu's house. He asked, "O gathering of traders, how much profit will you give me on my merchandise from Sham?" Right? It's his business. They said, 12 for every 10. 12 for every 10 dirhams. So we'll raise it by, to $12, for example. Uthmān radiallahu anh said, I can obtain more profit. So then the trader said, okay, 14 for every 10. They said, indeed, he said, I've been offered more. They said, okay, 15 for every 10. Uthmān radiallahu anhu said, no, they have offered more. Then they said, oh Abu Amr, there are no more traders in Medina. We're all the traders. There's nobody else besides us. So who offered you more? Who offered you more? He says, Allah, the mighty and majestic, He did. He said, 10 for every dirham, 10 for every one. Do you have more to offer? They said, no, well, Allah, we do not have. Then he announced, I make Allah witness that I have given this food in charity to the needy Muslims. Subhanallah. Right? He knew how to deal. Right? We think we're very good businessmen. Can we deal? Can we deal better and make profit more than what Allah offers us? We think so, because we don't give. We think that I will make that 10% profit, 20% profit. How about this profit? It's there, it's waiting for us every time. Right? Something to think about. So this was during the time of Hazrat Abu Bakr. Time is running out. And so eventually comes a time when Khalifa Umar al-Faruq radiallahu anhu lay on his deathbed. At that time, he placed the responsibility of Khilafah on the shoulders of 6 individuals among the senior Sahaba, and they made this committee. And the details of this, inshallah, we'll cover, because Hazrat Abdul Rahman ibn Auf radiallahu anhu had a great impact. So this part of the story will be expanded when we discuss his life. And he was a major, he played a major role in this. Eventually, Hazrat Uthmān radiallahu anhu was selected as a Khalifa. Allah Ta'ala bestowed Uthmān radiallahu anhu a long life because he was there for 12 years, a little shy of 12 years before he was martyred. And that was the growth of a nation. And at that time, the expansion was complete, you can say. And Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu had made tremendous gains and conquests, and Hazrat Uthmān further made gains beyond that, as well as consolidated the power. So the first 6 years saw the development and consolidation of the Islamic State. And at this time, the Muslims conquered several new regions. And look at these regions that we're familiar with now. But this was all during the time of Hazrat Uthmān. In the west, Muslims conquered Cyprus, Antalya, and Asia Minor. They went into Turkey, but not Istanbul. Up to that point, besides Istanbul. After that was the Roman Empire. It was not conquered at this time. In the east, we have Afghanistan, Samarkand, Tashkent, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Khurasan, Tabaristan. All of these stans were covered and conquered at the time. So that's when the people of the area became Muslim at that time. In North Africa, Egypt, Libya, Algeria, Tunisia, modern-day Morocco, the Maghreb area. In the Middle East, Iran, Iraq, Armenia, Azerbaijan, parts of Turkey, Syria, Palestine, Jordan, Yemen, all the Gulf and Arabia. Subhanallah. All these expansions made the Islamic State far mightier than any of the past empires of Rome and Persia. So it was complete. And if you go back to the Battle of Khandaq, when the Muslims were about to be destroyed from all sides, and they had dug the trench, and there was a huge rock, and the Prophet Sahaba could not do anything there, and he went down himself and he hit that rock and he said, SubhanAllah, Allah has given me this, Allah has given me this. And you imagine at that time when they're almost about to be routed, but the matter of 30 years, this is the empire of the Islamic world. SubhanAllah, 30 years. See, this is the prophecy being fulfilled. And they worked hard at it, right? So it's, SubhanAllah, to see the history, because we have the advantage of seeing in a bird's eye view. So we can see from one side to the other side, and we see the victory. Right now, we're living history, so we can't see that. We see maybe we're in a difficult situation, and Islam is being attacked from all sides. But things can change, and we have to have the iman and yaqeen, and that we are the ones that can do that change. We may not be seeing that change, but definitely will make that impact. Also during his khilafah, the preparation of the authorized version of the Quran was completed. And there's a whole discussion about that. Like I said, many elements of the khilafah needs further study, needs to be discussed back and forth, and this is not the place for it. But it's something that's essential for us to know. And we need to find these weekend programs and try to make sure that we understand. Because this master copy of the Quran was compiled And 6 authentic copies were made and sent to the different regions. And through this sacred project, Uthmān radiallahu anhu united the ummah on the Mus'haf that we're reading today. So great status that Uthmān radiallahu anhu has for this project. So we were talking about the first half of the Khilafah of Uthmān radiallahu anhu. This was a relatively peaceful time. Islam enjoyed unprecedented honor and status. Wealth was abundant, and the Muslims ruled over a vast area of Asia and Africa and brought all these countries under one flag. But everything has its own misfortune, and every piece of good luck brings its own disgrace. And we are reminded of the narration of Salama radiallahu anha, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam one time woke up in the middle of the night, and he was in a worried state, and he saw a dream. He had seen a dream, and he said, "Subhanallah, how much treasure has Allah sent upon my ummah, and what types of fitna has come down with it?" Right? We want wealth, we want prosperity, but that wealth and prosperity also brings its own baggage. Are we prepared for that? Most of the time we don't see that aspect, right? You want all the money, but then when you get it, you realize, you know what? I have to give, I have to do this, I have these responsibilities, and then you just want to escape all of the responsibilities. You want to escape all of the fitna, right? So one time, I had heard one person, he came, mashallah, and I was well off, so he came to a community and he, broke down a home, existing home, and built a home, a nice big home. So, but when you go down this block, you see little house, and a huge house, and the little house. So then later on, it's like, I wish I didn't build in that area, right? Because now everybody's like looking at me, and everybody's coming to me. So something to think about, right? You want that, but then that comes, okay, now everybody can see you, right? Now you're on the pedestal. What are you going to do? How are you going to react, right? So these are things that we have to come with. So the Prophet, he had already prophesied that fitna is going to happen. And Uthmān, he also knew that. Subhanallah. And I won't be able to talk too much about it, but towards the latter half, a fitna enveloped the major Islamic cities. And it was devised by a group of misguided villains who wanted to sabotage Islam and the Islamic State. And their leader was a Jew who claimed to be a Muslim, Abdullah ibn Saba. He ignited the fire and fueled the flames. His plan was carefully prepared and successfully implemented. Right? When you want to destroy, it takes planning. And they had planning, and they had the right people in the right places, and the time on their hand, and this is what happened. And he claimed against the third Khalifa many falsities and lies, which caused a rebellion against him. It resulted in his home in Medina coming under siege. Subhanallah. Muslim empire extended to the east, to the west, to the south. But now this plan was hatched, and it was implemented over several years. And when the moment came, they picked a time when everybody had went for Hajj. Everybody went for Hajj, and it was the Hajj season. Then they brought insurgents from different areas, and they sieged Medina. None was allowed to enter the house. It gradually increased in intensity to the extent that no food, not even water, was allowed to reach the besieged. Uthmān was besieged in his own home. None of the Sahaba who were present in Medina at that time were accomplices. To the contrary, all of them without exception were ready to support and defend him. In fact, they would lay their lives at his feet had the Khalifa Uthmān not prevented them from this. Because Uthmān was kind-hearted and gentle. The Sahaba said, let's do away with these people. But he did not want to kill any of them. He did not want to raise arms against anybody. So he discouraged any of the Sahaba from taking action. And he tried to negotiate and talk to them. But they were intent on their evil plan. They didn't want anything besides to remove him. So Uthmān, out of his kindness and bravery, preferred to remain besieged than shed Muslim blood or to escape to avoid the crisis. He had firm conviction that the fortune of martyrdom was destined for him based on the prophecy of Rasulullah ﷺ, who had many years ago had given him glad tidings. Remember, he's one of the Ashara Mubashara. But if you go back to the hadith, and we know that the Prophet might enter, allow the person who's knocking at the door, allow him to enter and say that he will enter Jannah upon a calamity. Subhanallah. So he was given the glad tidings at that time of the being promised Jannah, but upon a calamity. So he knew that. Uthmān, he knew that he will be martyred. So that's why he took this approach. Further, he was aware of the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, once the sword has been placed in my ummah, it will not be lifted from it until the day of judgment. Subhanallah. And he did not want, he tried his best to close the floodgates. This was his reasoning for not taking up arms against others, even though they were misguided. Right? So they came to Medina and this was So Uthmān was determined to delay this as much as possible. Even on the day when he was besieged, he said, the person who is most excellent in my eyes is the one who withholds his hand and weapon, even at that difficult situation. And we see, when we look at the details, how the Hassan and Hussein and others of the Sahaba were defending, and they were guarding the house, so the insurgents could not come. And the Sahaba obeyed his command and submission and turned away. They could have easily dispatched it. They did not do that because Uthmān knew this. So many of the Sahaba were already out in Medina, either for jihad or performing Hajj, because it's the Hajj season. This is when the assassins, they took the advantage and they snuck in through the back. They couldn't go through the front and attack the Sahaba. They didn't dare do that. Hassan and Hussein, radiallahu anhuma, they were protecting that area. There were skirmishes, but eventually they went through the back. And it ultimately ended in Uthmān radiallahu anhu being killed unjustly while fasting and while reciting the glorious Quran. Subhanallah. The murder was committed on Friday during the Hajj season. He was more than 80 years old at that time. Subhanallah. And that was amazing that, the Quran is a proof for you or against you. But here, even today, we have the blood that was spilled of Hazrat Uthmān on that Quran. We see that Quran. Subhanallah. The Quran itself will bear witness to that. And it's interesting, subhanallah, that the blood, where the ayah where the blood is, فَسَيَكْفِيكَهُمُ اللَّهُ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. And Allah will be sufficient for you against them. And He is the all-hearing and all-knowing. Subhanallah. That was the life and the death of Hazrat Uthmān radiallahu anhu. Subhanallah, there's so much to learn from here that, we don't want to die, in a quote-unquote difficult way. We want to die on our beds, right? That's what we really desire. We want to die at ease, and we said people die on their bed. We see so many companions, they died in the battlefield. And so many were honored with martyrdom, even in this situation, in Medina. Because it's a proof, it's a stamp. I live my life, and then there's a stamp, right? The stamp guarantees that. It's already been sealed. When you have some package, and it's stamped, and you can't open it, then you realize, wow, this is genuine. The Sahaba's life were stamped, and martyrdom was that stamp. And their life from the beginning to end, you look at it from the outside, you see it's beautifully preserved, and to be opened up and given the reward on the Day of Judgment. Subhanallah. So this is what we have to see. We have to die on Iman. We have to die with our principles. If we do that, then we're really following that. Living our life like the companions and also dying like the companions. If that means to die in this manner. Right? So don't think of it as like a calamity for the individual. It's success. Success. Because this world is a fleeting world. Allah Ta'ala says He's bought the lives of the believers. Right? He's bought the lives of the believers. So we have to be ready. We don't want warfare and bloodshed. Right? We do it for the sake of Allah. But if it requires even that our blood be spilled for the sake of Allah, we should be ready for it. We should be ready because the reward is tremendous. We try our best to keep justice. We try our best to follow the rules. But shaitan is shaitan. Shaitan does not want that. And that's why you see the lives of the companions, because they were so strong, the shaitan, and so strong that elimination was their desire. Right? So this is the nature of kufr, that they cannot handle the truth. So we just have to be ready for that. And we have to be willing to be part of that. There's so many virtues, the time is up. There's a whole list of just the virtues that I wanted to take, but the time, inshallah, will stop here. ʿUthmān radiallahu anhu was recognized, for his wealth, his affluence, his modesty, his knowledge, his understanding. And he lived his life in a great manner, and he died with the Quran recited on his lips. May Allah Ta'ala give him abundant reward. May Allah Ta'ala allow us to follow and get benefit from his life and death, and allow us to follow in the footsteps of the companions. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Inshallah, we'll end with a little bit of dhikr. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد. اللهم صل على إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. صلوات اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. الله ولي الذين آمنوا. الله ولي الذين آمنوا. الله ولي الذين آمنوا. صلوات اللهم صل على محمد. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد يا فاطر السماوات والأرض يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا أرحم الراحمين يا أكرم الأكرمين يا الله والله Allah accept this gathering, Allah forgive us, Ya Rabbil Alameen, Allah allow this deed, so listening and speaking, Ya Allah, to be for your sake, Ya Rabbil Alameen, Allah allow the story of ʿUthmān radiallahu anhu, Allah, to inspire us, Allah, to live our life and our death, Ya Allah, for the sake of Allah, Ya Rabbil Alameen, Allah. Please overlook our faults, Ya Allah, overlook our shortcomings, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Oh Allah, give us tawfiq, Ya Allah, to do good deeds, Ya Rabbil Alameen, and exert our energy, our resources, our time, our wealth, our money, Ya Allah, for the sake of Islam, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Oh Allah, we ask for afiyah, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Oh Allah, we ask for afiyah, and continued afiyah, Ya Rabbil Alameen. We ask for safety and security, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Oh Allah, and we give thanks to you for all the ni'mah that you've given us, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Oh Allah, if times of difficulty, Allah, allow us to do the right thing, Ya Rabbil Alameen, and inspire us to do the right thing, Ya Allah. In times of difficulty, Ya Allah, oh Allah, protect our family, protect our community, protect the Ummah, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Allah, those that are suffering all over the world, Ya Allah, alleviate their suffering, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Oh Allah, those are in need, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Oh Allah, provide them, Ya Allah, Rabbil Alameen. Allah, provide hidayah, Allah, to the community, Ya Allah, to the non-Muslims, Ya Allah. We give the hidayah, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Allah, allow Islam to spread, Allah, all over the world, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Oh Allah, allow us to continue the mission, Ya Allah, and our progeny, Ya Allah, and our students, Ya Rabbil Alameen. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله على خير خليل محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا رحمن. جزاك الله خير.